way, no?
Well, so the whole thing is like, you know, you can count the number of extra, like every second rung, and we could look for a material supplier on the diameter, and we could pull out the aluminum ones and feed in a steel one.
Right. So we had considered that in the past, and that with the people at the time on Strata Council who didn't really know what they were talking about said, oh, well, the motor is not going to be able to support that, and so they kiboshed the idea. I mean, it's possible that the motor wouldn't be able to support that, but it possibly could. And even if it couldn't, we
So
can just
what-
get a new motor, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
With
the motor is not $70,000, right?
$1,500 for a double horsepower.
There you go.
So I mean, even if you spend $3,000 on a motor, you got a 4 times horsepower and an increase of torque, and you did a value of weight per section. Like I could get the weights for the materials. That's not a big deal, and then we could weigh that section. We could see what the motor's lifting. All we need to do is do an evaluation of a square foot of material, then multiply it by all the square feet. Simple. And then once that's done, we've got a weight value for the total gate. Now, and we correlate to what the existing motor is, then all we need to do is adjust the motor to the torque value, and that data is on the side of the motor.
Yeah,
It's printed
right?
on it.
Yeah.
On it. So we just need to evaluate the motor, the gate, and adjust it for the principles. And really, I mean, if the better part, it was only the lower section.
Yeah, because I mean, nobody
Up
is
to,
going
like-
to climb to the top, or even like if they realize it's steel here, they're not gonna.
It's not nowhere near as tough as this. This is the alley that one of my cop buddies said.
It's the toughest in the country.
It is. Yeah, actually, as the minister at the church says, I walk down here when things are not nice at night. He says they'll talk to me. They won't allow too many people in the area to come into their domain. This is where this particular T intersection, the cops advised me not to visit. I've already chased out of where we are at, 340, when the gate was jammed up. I've chased 5 or 6, 7 guys out with a knife in my hand because they had dirty needles in their hand. It's just how it was going to be. I used to be a doorman at a nightclub before I wanted to be a police officer.
I mean, we could maybe even just have steel sleeves that go over the existing aluminum.
Well,
ones.
you
Is that-
could,
is that possible?
but yeah, steel sleeves. But keep in mind that mild steel is easily cut through with a slitting saw if they become sophisticated. If they become sophisticated
Okay, yeah.
in their application of trying to make it into your. I mean, you have to think ahead of these guys if you're thinking about security. You can't just think, oh, I put up a metal something or other. The only things that I can think of that are going to be light and more secure than aluminum would be titanium for its strength, but it still has a weakness. Funny that you should be able to go for a stronger material, but the weakness is that it'll easily be cut with the right gear. What you need is an alloy in steel that is terribly not hard, really hard, that won't be cut necessarily that easily by a slitting saw. Therefore, a hacksaw is almost impossible. What I'm getting to is that if you raise the bar a number of times for the thief to try and get there, he'll give up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to propose to you. So that's the ethos of the management side. Now that we got that target, what fulfills that target? So we go look for a steel alloy that is going to be like a bike lock, like those D-shaped bike locks that anybody uses down here, and the only thing that kills them is by using frozen nitrous. This tube actually fits fairly precise, although there's some slack, there's some room. But the anodized part will allow it to stay somewhat clean despite its filthy area. And then it'll still function to a degree of no maintenance, but this wants to be sprayed down with penetrating oil probably once every 6 months.
Yeah, they recommend every 4 months in an annual, and it has not been sprayed once in 7 years.
Yeah, so there you go. So
Until
then,
I did it the other day.
right. So then, and what aluminum is porous. It's a metal, but it's got a higher porosity, and so it'll absorb the oils that you spray on it. The best one to spray on it would be fluid film, and it's a spray lanolin,
Okay.
and it's a natural product, so that if it gets on the ground, it's not going to be a pollutant. It's not going to be an oil-based, petroleum-based product, and so you don't need to worry about that. And so I get a can of fluid film. They're expensive, but the whole point is that even if you did it once a year with this gate in the environment, so what you would do is you would start to replace these rods with steel rods,
Yeah.
because yes, these aluminum, like if I wanted to put my hands there and squeeze tight, I could probably deform those rods.
Yeah.
So the whole point being is that great idea for a low intense security area.
Is it appropriate for the downtown east side back alleys?
No.
No, exactly. So we. Sorry to interrupt you. The manufacturer of this, I went to their website and they sell various versions of this. One version is exactly the same as this, but between these rods here is a solid plate, and that would also roll up into the existing, or hopefully, you can buy like replacements. I don't know if it would necessarily fit exactly in here, but I can lower this. You can see really quickly. The top few pieces on this are solid. Brady, move.
Yeah.
Brady, move.
Yeah, galvanized, sure.
Yeah, so that's galvanized. But you can see that, right? So how they're solid. So
But you can cut through that with tin snips.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to bring heavy duty tin snips, they're quiet. And being a metal fab guy, even if that's 12 gauge, 2 hands on, and if the handles were extended and I was a little bit more creative, where I could really I could cut a hole in that with no noise.
but with steel rods, you would probably get by.
Steel rods and steel tubes,
Yeah.
you would get no immediate. The whole thing is that when a grinder goes onto a round bar and it's able to spin on a tube on a round bar, the grinder has a tougher time cutting through.
Yeah.
You could go to a higher grade of alloy on the bars underneath and on the tubes, and therefore it would be tougher for them to cut through. Slitting saws, carborundum slitting saws tend to be able to cut through just about any. Not going to be easy to come by.
Right. I mean, you said, I think this is saying I was like I think they're 33 feet or something to that effect. Yeah. And so they're currently all one run the entire time.
Yeah, that's not easy to find. The common lengths for diameters of rod at this size are actually 12 feet now.
12 feet.
So the gate manufacturer, and to get anodized is the pewter finish. It's the finish that says that looks a little bit dull, and but it's actually a finish that's slightly ornamental, but very protective for the aluminum because it's a forced oxide.
Okay.
And it's a process unto aluminum only. So in other words, when you get aluminum that's anodized, specialty for me, I do a lot of marine stuff, and therefore we go anodized. Why? Because it lasts a long time.
Yeah.
And so it produces a film that allows the aluminum to stay at a nominal size and tolerance for a long period of time without bringing a lot of corrosion onto the material. Otherwise, the material wants to grow its own oxide if it was just plain aluminum, like left plain with no anodizing, untreated, and it would grow its own film, and eventually all of these tubes would be locked. They would not rotate. The bars would not rotate. It would be stiff in all the joints. When the gate goes up to go around its mandrel, it wouldn't consolidate. It wouldn't roll up like a simple chain link. What you need...
So let me just step in. So this gate here, there's a full length of this slightly thinner rod, which is maybe like 3/8 or something like that of an inch.
Could be metric, it could be imperial.
And then
we'd have to get a micrometer on it to measure it, to be specific. And then, but what would be easier to get for this is aluminum and steel work cooperatively in the environment. So what you would do is you would start to replace these rods with steel rods, because yes, these aluminum, like if I wanted to put my hands there and squeeze tight, I could probably deform those rods. So the whole point being is that great idea for a low intense security area.
Is it appropriate for the downtown east side back alleys?
No.
No, exactly. So we've known this for some time, and at one point, like some guys literally cut a huge hole in it here, and our regular gate contractors came out and they just said, we don't even want to work on this because we like to guarantee our work, and we don't want to do that. And so they right off the bat, like a year and a half
aluminum.
said,
If I even brought a hacksaw blade without a hacksaw frame, I could cut a section in 4 feet by 4 feet out of that in a matter of minutes.
Yeah. It would take you a little longer through steel, right?
A lot longer, but even a battery operated slitting saw on a 4-inch grinder will cut through steel, but what it will mean is he has to have a $200 tool.
And make a lot of noise.
Correct.
Yeah. And so there's bedroom windows just up here, and so
and if he has bedroom windows, but he also has a camera, and it sets off an alarm, or someone who's on a security profile or a building manager, they'll at least see what's going on. And slitting saw, about 110 dB.
Yeah.
So it'll sound like there's a small concert going off in the hallway, in the back lane here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of options to sort of ready this gate.
So